David Crowell for Money Matters. I'm the Senior Loan Officer for Mortgage Network here in Hilton Head. We have offices also in Charleston and Columbia and in 30 other places up and down the East Coast of the United States. When world events rumble and national events rumble, the mortgage business feels a tweak every single time. In other words, everything is interconnected. And right now, the tweaks of interest are coming from the healthcare bill. It's a big part of our economy, and it possesses the size and gravity to be able to create great changes in the society. So, what's really at stake here? There is a consensus in the United States, a universal consensus. It's really no different than any other industrialized nation. There's a consensus in the United States that everybody should have health care. Health care as a right, not a privilege. That's the national consensus. No matter who you talk to, no matter what the political stripe, the fact of the matter is that if somebody is deathly ill, the ambulance comes, care is given at the local hospital emergency room, and often for days in intensive care. And in other words, the support, the medical support in the community is unreserved for taking care of people who need health care. Now, if Medicaid is massively cut by $800 billion or $750 billion or $1 trillion or whatever over the next 10 years, that will cause some 20 or 22 or 23 million Americans to lose their health care. Most of that health care will be lost from the present and future growth of Medicaid rolls. It doesn't mean that that money is actually, it's really a chessboard that the money doesn't disappear off of. The money just gets moved around on the same chessboard. So where did the 800 million that didn't go toward those Medicaid recipients, where did that money go? That money went to tax cuts. The bill that proposes the restriction in the growth of Medicaid proposes tax cuts to upper income Americans. So it's a shifting of money from one piece of the board to another. Where did some of the other money go? Well, some of the other money went to the states as block grants so that they can take care of the people in their states that used to receive the Medicare. In other words, there's going to be emergency medical services or end-of-the-line medical services that are going to be required. Somebody's got to provide them. It's unclear exactly how that's going to work. It's all part of the same chessboard. The money doesn't just evaporate, but it's unclear at this point, and that's part of the debate as to how this is going to take place. Small hospitals and reasonably large hospitals all across the country are against the repeal and replace of the ACA because of the disruptive effect that it will have on cash flow to them. Most of the small hospitals, certainly all of the rural hospitals in the United States, absolutely depend on Medicare and Medicaid for their very survival, and those hospitals will shut down without it. That's a problem that's a voice in the system that's unaddressed. The AMA, which the American Medical Association, which has been so against universal health care in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, now is absolutely in support of the ACA, the Obamacare. The it's very interesting. The argument is clear in the society that everybody needs health care. The question is, how do we have the most effective, efficient, cost-effective delivery system for that health care? Radical change, other than increasing the health care, radical change is very difficult because you can't really have a minute where the health care is withdrawn or doesn't exist. In other words, you can't take a year off and get it figured out, because during the year that you're getting it figured out, everybody needs just as much health care as they did the year before and the year after. So there's no let up, there's no give up. You can't decide that you're going to shut down the municipal water system and rehab it, and you'll open it up again 5 years from next Tuesday. People need the water tomorrow and all the days between tomorrow and 5 years from tomorrow. So you have to be able to maintain a complete, coherent, 100% effective water system or health system while you're in the act of modifying and fixing the health system. So what looks to be the case, the health bill that's been proposed by the House and that is being proposed by the Senate does not look like in the end it gets passed. What looks like being the case is that the Obamacare, by whatever name, will survive, and that a sufficient number of Democrats and Republicans will work together to be able to make the modifications to it that make the health exchanges work more effectively and make the entire system less expensive. There are fundamental principles involved that are going to be tough for both sides to swallow, because the Republicans have made an 8-year project out of resisting Obamacare. Maybe all they need to do is to stop calling it Obamacare and call it something else. But the fact of the matter is that a universal health care system that probably involves Medicare as we know it, and certainly involves Medicaid as we know it, is going to remain in place. There really is no substitute for young people, children, the elderly, and a big segment of the working population who don't get health care through their jobs. So there's little option but for the two sides to come together and improve the ACA, Obamacare. Does it need improvement? Absolutely. But for the reason of the water department analogy, it's very difficult to repeal and replace. It's a campaign slogan. Doesn't really work out in practice. It needs to be modified, changed, repaired, fixed. All of those words are appropriate, but repealed and replaced, not so much. The markets are starting to show some interesting movement. The bond market has fallen off this past week. Rates have gone up 1/8. Last week we were at 3.875 for 30-year fixed rate money, and this week we're at 3.99%. So it's up 1/8%. Rates are still fabulous. If you're in the market for a house, the rates are not a consideration. Strategy is, so come and talk to us. If you are still not refinanced, then you need to be. You need to have your financial plan set for the next 10 to 15 years, because rates are as low as they're going to be probably for the next 10 or 15 years. They're at the low of this cycle. So it'd be wise to get in and check out what you've got. Make sure that your plan is a good one. I'm DCrowell from Mortgage Network. We're the largest provider of mortgages in the area, and we'd love to talk to you. And I think that's about it for today. Hope you found the ramblings on healthcare interesting, and we'll see you next week.